Hi everyone, welcome to the Spiritual Society podcast. I am Zeta.
And I'm Mariam.
And we are so grateful to have you guys tuning in with us today. This podcast is dedicated to helping you merge the spiritual realm with your reality.
And in today's episode, we will be talking about the difference between your ego and your confidence and ways to encourage your confidence whilst also controlling your ego, so you have a balance, because we need both.
Absolutely. Yeah, because I think there's a healthy version of them both, but I really feel like sometimes there's a big misunderstanding between being egoic and being confident in yourself. And I personally, just to put my opinion out there already, I feel like it's so important in your life to be confident. And the reason why I would love to talk about this and why I wrote a blog about this is because you can get so easily misunderstood just by loving yourself, by knowing yourself and standing so tall in that. And I've personally been quite attacked by the confidence that I was gaining at the time and learning to love myself and stuff. But I actually found it was really interesting because I knew I wasn't doing anything wrong. I knew I was just loving myself and really being proud of myself. And I'd always get targeted and indirected or even spoken to by people who had no confidence, and it's such a bizarre thing for me because these people were calling me egoic when they don't even know what confidence is. So one reason why, no, honestly, I'm being dead serious. So one reason why I think it's an important topic to understand is to get it through to people of the difference between what it looks like to be arrogant and egoic and to actually just be someone who's just confident in themselves, and to reach people out there who are hopefully listening to this that actually resonate with this, that they understand that not to feel as though they need to suppress their love for self in order to appeal to the public.
Yeah, because we can't actually control, how people perceive us. But if we are coming from a place of love and a place of, because that's what confidence is, where the way you carry yourself could potentially empower someone, not put someone down. Absolutely. Which is your ego, and when you genuinely know you're coming from a place of love and projecting yourself from that place at your core, then you kind of don't even care anymore what people are going to say.
Yeah.
Because you know that you're just being your authentic self, and you're coming from a place of love. Whereas with your ego, you actually tend to care about how you come across.
Absolutely.
Because you want to almost portray yourself in a certain way. And ego to me is control. And sometimes, everyone has ego, and I catch myself when I am having an egoic moment. It's when I'm trying to control something. And that for me highlights that's not actually good. I shouldn't be trying to control that. Obviously, some things you need to control, I don't know, discipline, routine, but there are things that you need to let go and trust more rather than control. And that is also confidence as well, just trusting, and feeling supported
and believing in yourself
and believing in yourself to support yourself. Whereas ego is more like control. They're actually so contrasted, when you think about it.
There's a weird middle ground between the two of them.
There's a weird middle ground,
that is similar, but they have very different what's the word for it, intentions. That's it. They're very different intentions. Confidence just wants to live their life, then just be happy living their life. Ego wants to live their life and show it off for everybody else. And that's how I like to see it. It's it's kind of obviously in modern, there's always going to be different levels to it and to people,
and people see it differently. This is just our perspective. One time I was talking to a healer, and he said quite abruptly in a way, because I was talking about feeling the need to let go of my ego more, and then he was like, don't let go of all of it. You need ego in this world. And at the time it was a new perspective for me, because I didn't really acknowledge whether ego was good, or having an ego is good or bad, but I never saw it as something you need. But I think there's obviously a time and place.
Absolutely. It's context.
And I don't know, for me, whenever I have felt overly controlling and wanting to have full grasp on things, I haven't really been in a good place. But I guess when you implement it in different areas, but my overall approach, I like to move with confidence more rather than like wanting to control the outcome.
Or how people perceive you and your
people
success.
Perceive you, yeah.
Because a lot of the time people with ego want to look successful. It has nothing to do with what they actually have obtained. And in fact, people with a really strong ego are people who are very deeply insecure about what they've got. It's always a lack perspective for me, which is why they're always wanting more.
How would you define ego, like your view of ego?
I have like almost two definitions. Like ego really solely is about your identity. Like it's you. Like ego is kind of
me first.
Yeah, it's kind of like, but I see it, the ego that we need is the identity. Otherwise you can get so lost in other people's like definitions of you, or you kind of merge into others and become like a people pleaser, or someone like doesn't know themselves and quite lost. So ego is needed in that instance to be assertive and to know who you are and to move forward with that. But a lot of the time that balance gets really disturbed, and people kind of rely so much on their own interpretation of themselves that they don't even realize that they're looking for the acceptance from others. Does that make any sense? Like there's so much trying to build themselves up, but they don't realize that they're building it up on other people's perspectives. And that's why you see a lot on social media, like these like people who are trying to get it in life that are like posing with these like really expensive cars, and they're actually really broke because they've just used all their money to like buy this car. Do you see what I mean? It's like they want to look good and
that's
be validated for their success that way.
Yeah, that is literally how I see it, but I word it more in a way of control. Like it's a constant need to control how you're perceived, control the people around you. I feel like having like thinking first with your ego is like very controlling, and you're almost like you're being a narcissist. Like you're just trying to control things in a way that makes you look good.
Yeah, that would be like an excessive ego though, right? Or would you say that would be just ego plainly?
I think it depends on the situation, but like the main difference for me is just confidence makes you feel empowered.
Yeah.
Like an ego, if it makes you feel empowered, it's like a short-term thing.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's not
100%.
like an actual like divine empowerment, and people around you won't necessarily feel like you're inspiring per se. Whereas with confidence, it's like something that actually moves people.
Yeah, I think like confidence is more of like it's a skill. I always believe that, but I think it is more of a personality trait than ego. Ego's always like next to you. I kind of never see it as one. It's really interesting actually how that's like portraying in my mind as I'm speaking about it. But like confidence, when you're confident, I still feel like you still have a really lovely soul. Like you can still have a nice soul, whereas ego is more of a contaminated one if it's obviously excessive. Yeah. Because you're so busy, like you're actually lost. If you've got an ego, you're lost. You have not found yourself.
Yeah, and sometimes do you ever just feel someone projecting their ego when they're talking?
Oh, always.
And it's just so like,
you can see that though in people who literally seek attention through what they're saying,
and
you know, when they're like fishing for like compliments.
Yeah,
it's like a weird thing.
Yeah, and I find that in situations I've been through, people like that have been, you know, ruled by their ego, they just want to put other people down. And that for them is like, I don't know, like that's pleasure for them.
Oh,
like,
yeah,
that boosts their ego.
Oh yeah, because it's like I win, it's a battle, it's a game. People with ego.
Whereas if you have confidence, you're not going to need to exert yourself like that.
No,
because you're just like, yeah, this is my belief. You don't need to have it. This is my perspective. This is my way of life. Whatever, you know. Yeah. It's not needing acceptance from others because you're not on that wavelength where you need that validation. Yeah, it's like more connected to yourself, having confidence.
Like I think that's where the like weird like merging of them two are, is like, in my opinion, obviously ego is where you again, how you identify, where you know yourself, but it can really easily fall into the extreme. But a healthy ego is where you do know yourself enough to be confident in that, and not to listen to other people. And a lot of the time, sometimes ego does rule. I don't know if anyone's ever read The Power of Now, such an amazing book by Eckhart Tolle, or even A New Earth, which is another one of his books, and he speaks so beautifully about the ego. But I think he is more of a, I don't know if he ever mentions in the books actually whether it's like a thing that is needed, but I personally believe that it is, and to some extent, to live in a, because it's a human world, right? We are souls in a human body, but there's a reason why we're in two, right? It's like it's merged together for a reason.
You can't let people, you know, walk all over
you need to have that like dominance, and you do need to assert yourself every now and again and know who you are enough to not let people again walk all over you. But
the confidence, I believe, is also like trusting that the people that do enter your life or the situations, they do serve you. So there's no need to exert some sort of control.
You don't need to prove yourself apart from to yourself. I've always, it's more of a self-life thing rather than for other people. Living for yourself than for others. Yeah, I like that.
Yeah, I think ego, like, because I've read this amazing book, it's called Western Mind, Eastern Body, and it talks about the different chakras, and your root chakra and your sacral chakra, when you're like 5 years old up to 2 to 5, that's when you're developing your sense of ego, and that's why kids tend to throw loads of tantrums and like be crazy during like those years, because they're really like awakening to, you know, their existence and their being. And when you see it in a spiritual way, like you kind of like see it in a cute way, because that's what's going on in their mind. They're just
learning about it.
They're finding their ground. And I think maybe ego is a layer of existence that we have to acknowledge to find our ground, and it serves us you know, when we enter this world. But we shouldn't, you know, you can't act like you're 5, like that mentality,
because you find that though, and I mentioned this a few times actually, and I so strongly believe in it. Like, you have a lot of egoic people in power, but they're just massive kids. They just have not healed that narcissistic egoic side of themselves, and they believe that that's how they can get their own way. You have a lot of people in power who, I'm sure people can think of specific someone in power like that's kind of very egoic, and someone who sees their success as a definition of who they are. But that's not the case. Like, your success in life is how much you've grown, in my opinion. It's nothing to do with your materialistic side of things. And that's another difference between confidence and ego, is you don't need all that excessive stuff to feel like you've achieved something. You know, it's more of, especially if you're someone who wants to go, like, instead of looking for fame and fortune and stuff, you're more of someone who wants to aim for like making an impact. Like, that's how I kind of see it. And making it like improving yourself to yourself, that you can achieve that, rather than proving to other people that you can do that. It's like, you should never fall into that category of wanting to do it for others. Always for yourself. And like, if you ever wonder, because I used to at one point, when people were accusing me of being arrogant or egoic, that like, am I actually being egoic? Like, if you ever sit there and wonder that, or whether you feel like it's just confidence, a really big telltale sign is exactly that. Like, are you doing this for yourself, or are you doing it for other people? And another thing I normally mention as well is, how long does that last for? Like, when you achieve something, does it just dissipate like a day after? Like, do you not feel happy anymore about what it is that you've achieved after you've got that attention from it? Because, you know, a lot of the time ego is very temporary. It's always looking for the next thing. It's like a bottomless pit, like
like a short term.
Whereas confidence is something that you always remember, and always feel fulfilled by what it is that you feel like you've achieved. So even if it like disappears from you, I always find that ego always feels like it's lost something, whereas confidence is like, well, I've gained something from it, even if it's not in my life right now.
It's trust.
Absolutely.
I honestly see confidence
like a flow.
Confidence I see as equals in my brain, like as an equation, like confidence equals trust, ego equals control. And like, it's like a brainstorm. All the situations I've gone through, they relate to those two principles of like, you're gonna have trust, or you're gonna have control over the situation, over people. And some people like don't, and it always manifests in, I believe, as anxiety as well, when you do have an ego, like a sense of like restlessness. You always feel like on edge, and you're like, you want to really be super aware of your surroundings and be ready to attack and be ready to like put people down, put like control situations to like a very I
never thought of it like that.
Yeah, that's how I see it.
It makes sense though, because it kind of does break the barrier between confidence, because if you're anxious, which I used to struggle with a lot, you're obviously not confident in yourself, so that no matter what happens, like you don't have confidence in yourself to make it through or like to do the right thing. That's why you're always anxious, always looking at the future, like what if, and asking yourself these questions that aren't actually necessary, because we all do it, but it's about what you tell yourself. Like, do you let that run, or do you stop yourself from like spiraling into that pit? And having confidence in yourself. And I tell myself this a lot, like a really good tip if you struggle with anxiety is to like just like remind yourself, like, I am in control of this. Like, even if a situation that like, is not my ideal comes up, I will be able to come through it because I have done in the past.
Even if there's no, I'm telling you, I feel like the more bleak your situation, the better. Like, because if you just trust that it's going to be okay, and you trust that you're like going to make it through, like the situation will miraculously transform. Like, obviously don't just sit there, do nothing, but trust that process. And like I like to believe, and from my own experience, like when I say the bleaker the better, because the universe, I feel, and like God, you know, will reward you for, despite there being absolutely no sign, you just went for it and you've trusted. And like that's what makes you have luck, and you know, luck as in blessings, because you really trusted that, and you weren't trying to like, but how will it happen, or what will I do problem. And
it's always trying to figure out the end before it's even happened. Like, you're trying to play it in your head so it's safe, so that you know everything. You're trying to predict everything, this is why I don't do tarot for myself much anymore, because I think it can create a lot of anxiety, because you're always trying to predict things. And
tarot, at the end of the day, it's like, it's just reflecting the energies of that moment, which can always change.
Absolutely.
Like they change, like it's literally, it's not something that's set in stone.
It will change. The energy changes. Like, you're in control of your fate. Tarot can't tell you everything. And you know, it's not going to either, because you're not supposed to know everything. There's a reason why you're living this life and not just witnessing it. Like, you are being a part of it. You're a part of the play, basically. So important to understand that. And you don't need to know the end goal. What's the fun in that? If you know you're gonna win, what's the point of even living it? Like, you're just not gonna feel the win from that, right? Because you've already felt it.
That's the nature of life. Like, we can't just be like so like controlling of what's going to happen.
It is
how is it going to happen?
Absolutely.
It's just about trusting, and again, like knowing that you come from a place of love, and that's what you give out, so you're going to receive love. You just trust it and you're confident. But when there's an imbalance, and you know, I feel like you're not in harmony with the flow of life when you are trying to control things. And I don't know, I don't think any good outcome has happened when I have been overly controlling, when I've just left it to, you know, trusting. And it also gives you just ease, just trusting that you're being like guided and guarded,
being present. And that's another thing that Eckhart Tolle says in his books, is that like, in this present moment there are no problems. Very rarely anyways. Like, a lot of the times there's problems because we're thinking about 5 minutes ahead, 10 minutes ahead, or a day ahead, or a week ahead, or a month, or a year. True. You're so worried about the future that you're not enjoying the present. And it's so important to kind of wind down and say, okay, 5 minutes, in 5 minutes times, maybe something chaotic is going to be happening, because we can tell like something, I don't know, problem might arise, and it's like just inevitable. That's 5 minutes. That's 5 minutes in the future. Embrace the next 5 minutes of peace. Do you see what I mean? And
it's so crazy. Like, every moment we live by is not going to come around again. So like, why are we in such anxiety?
You can slow time down though by being present, I found. Like, otherwise you wish your life away. But going back to this whole confidence and ego thing, like, you're so right when it comes down to control. And you know, people try to control people's perspective of it, and ego's risen, right, since social media's come about. Like, I don't want to demonize social media, because again, there's so many positive benefits to it, but I think that it's become like this, like, showy thing of where people are making themselves broke trying to look rich. And it's just a crazy concept to me, and that's from ego. If you're confident in yourself, like Mark Zuckerberg, like this guy wears this normal plain tops and like outfits, like he has no need to show off his money and everything like that, because he's confident in himself and in his success, and he doesn't need to prove his success to anybody. But for the majority of you, like, I also want to bring out a message to people who are getting like accused of being like egoic and stuff. Like a lot of the time people with ego will always view you out of jealousy, because
and
you're doing something and acting in a way that they can't do.
You cannot control this.
No.
I've gone through situations where I've genuinely, like, I don't know, I'm more aware now, but previously, like, I wouldn't be aware of how I come across to people, and like I wouldn't really care. And then there's been instances where I've been told how I come across, and I'm just like, I could really do nothing. That's just how you perceive me based on
your own perspective.
How you perceive me. Like there is nothing that I could have done for you. Just even based on, you know, appearances, people judge you. Yeah. So it's literally, I don't even feel like you should even care. Like, yes,
but confidence, you won't care.
Confidence, yeah, exactly. Like, because
your confidence isn't based on someone else's perspective.
You know, like you're giving out love, so you know you're going to align with love, and whatever doesn't, it's not going to affect you, because you know that it's not serving you, and that's just based on their own energy. The right people will receive you like the way you're projecting,
and they'll understand you. Like, you don't need someone with ego to tell you how to act, and you should definitely not listen to them either. Because there's a reason, like there's a lot of harm being egoic like that to themselves. It's really damaging for them, their own mental health, because they will always see things in a light. They'll always feel as though, you know, ego is resistance. If it's control, then it's resistance, because you're not going with the flow of life, and these people are, you know, obviously just reflecting their like inabilities on you, because they have an inability to actually feel confident in themselves, so they're gonna attack you thinking that you're the same as them. Egoic, it's a mirror. They feel as though you aren't being genuine because they know that they're not genuine.
Amen.
It's got nothing to do with you, it's got a lot to do with them.
You cannot even considering what other people think of you. It's so self-sabotaging, obviously, like to some extent where it applies, you know, in some cases, you know, I don't know, your mom, like to some extent in certain circumstances, but on an overall collective, it's very self-sabotaging to give energy away to how people perceive you, because it's everything to do with them. Yeah, exactly. And like almost nothing to do with you.
Exactly. And I just think, like, don't let people like that ruin your happiness, because a lot of the time these people will really try and get you down. And it's like, it really bizarres me, the accusations that you can get from someone who is, you know, shouting at you or like blaming you or indirecting you about something that they're the one that's, you know, they're doing. I had this instance,
my God.
Like I was like,
seriously,
what was I was literally, I don't even know what was happening. It was all online. So people just make assumptions of your life practically, and I was posting like really nice quotes. You know me, I'm always posting quotes. Like,
cutie.
I like to inspire. It is what it is.
Yes,
because this is how
on
I
brand.
feel.
Yes,
and I like to spread that to people. And I don't care about how. Oh, I love you. I love you. I love you all. I just like to spread my thought processes to people and like my mindset to people, and you know, any quotes that I resonate with, I know someone else will resonate with. Anyways, I was doing all that on social media and whatever, and I remember someone indirected me and literally said like, no one is as empty as those, like no one is as empty.
Oh my God, don't trigger me. Someone said something like, is it like as people that try to be positive or something like that?
Really weird, like,
or like the most happy people are depressed or something along those lines. Is that what you mean?
It was really, I don't know what it is, something along, I don't know if they like, it was a quote that they looked up online, most probably, because they're like obviously not original, because it's.
Did you know this person?
No, not directly.
They were a random person.
This was like someone who obviously had like a lot of jealousy on me already.
But did you personally know them?
No, they didn't know me either, but they just assumed from my like my social media that I was overly arrogant. Like no one is as empty as someone who pretends to be full. I don't know what the saying was, but I was like, what?
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
Yeah.
And I really had to tell myself, it doesn't matter. because I know myself. Like, that's where confidence comes in, by the way, guys, because I didn't care. Like, an egoic mind would see that and have to prove themselves and have to say something in return and has to put that person down. But I was like, what? You can believe whatever you like, but that is the worst quote, number one, I've ever heard. Because it didn't make any sense. You're just like
doing it like an indirect right now.
And two, but it's like, in a way,
I know
like,
what you mean.
you're reflecting your egoic mind on me.
People just, I feel like when you're not evolved on that level, you're not going to see that. You're just going to think that you're commenting or you're just showing your opinion, but no, like, you're just showing your own weakness.
Absolutely.
And I feel like on your end, it's like on our end, you know, on whoever's end who's perceiving all this, I think it takes not being disturbed by this kind of behavior to really shift away from it, and like that in turn attracts people who see you the way you're actually intending to be perceived, and empowering people, because like that is very disturbing when you're first confronted with it. I know for me it was very disturbing because I wasn't aware of how people perceived me, and then when I started picking it up, I was like, wait, but I'm not trying to be seen in a negative way, but why does it feel so out of my control? And then that's when I had to embrace, like, no, like, I can't really care about that because it's got nothing to do with me. And people think, you know, when you're egotistical or whatever, like you're like a nasty masculine, and masculine as in not, you know, gender based, but just your energy is very like dominant. But no, like, you can be egoic in a way where you're very subtle and you overthink things. It's not something that, you know, it's like flamboyantly like you're so egotistical. No, like, it can be something that you know, you can be a gentle like type of person, do you know what I mean? But it manifests in a way where you don't have like confidence. Instead, you're just like very controlling.
I mean, it's like everything, right? There's always like an opposite. So there's always, I would also agree with you of where it's like someone who's like completely arrogant, puts everyone down. You've also got someone who lets people walk all over them because like they don't feel
and that is
themselves.
Ego too.
They've lost themselves. Ego is a lost person, and you got one person who pretends they know themselves, which is that arrogant side, and you got someone who absolutely does not know themselves at all, and they like.
And that attracts, literally, that attracts the people, the circumstances, everything. And good, like, bad things, you know, happen to good people who let others walk all over them. Absolutely. And, you know, they could feel sorry for themselves. But it's like,
you're in control of that in some cases.
Yeah. And it's like you're allowing that and you're allowing that manifestation because you want people to see you in a certain way.
But do you because you don't want to come across like egoic. Like, would you say, like, it's weird because that sounds so contradictory, but it makes sense of where it's almost like a lack of ego is still ego in some weird shape or form? Because I would say people who are practically a doormat because they care, they don't want people to think they're like an a-hole or whatever, that's still ego because you're caring too much about what other people think, and obviously what you have on the outside. And obviously if you're in poverty and you really are deeply affected by that, you're gonna that's still an ego, right? Because it's at the end of the day not about your materialistic like possessions.
I know what you mean.
But it's also a lack of ego, because I always identify ego with, you know, your identity practically, of how you see yourself, how you assert yourself. And obviously it can get really, as I said before, people can take it like completely out of proportion. But it's almost like they have a complete lack of ego.
It's, oh my god,
but
we're like,
it's ego still.
Like I'm going on a trip right now, like you know, when you know those memes of like your mind like expanding and you're just realizing like,
you know, your high thoughts.
Like that is really like when you stop for a second, you're like looking around, like trying to comprehend. Honestly, that is a very valid point. Like, there's so many layers to it depending on what phase you're in, like the circumstance, like how evolved you want to be going about certain situations. But you know, we're all human, and part of this life is survival, and survival to some extent, you know, does require putting your needs first, and identity, knowing who you are, ego, but also, you know, having confidence in yourself and not feeling the need to exert it overly to a point where it could put people down.
Yeah, because that's what it is initially.
Down.
I think that's literally where the barrier is. Like, you can be confident in yourself, like be confident in yourself.
And
like, I'm sick of people,
you know?
like, I hate seeing people. I'm so sad when this happens, of where people aren't confident in themselves. I'm like, no, you need to, like,
honestly,
be confident. You have every reason to be. It's your birthright to feel good, to feel love yourself, to feel confident in yourself, to be free flowing, and to listen to yourself above everyone else. But like, when it comes down to ego, it's doing it in a way of where you're so confident that you get your confidence from putting others down, from being above everyone else, from doing better.
Control,
yeah. And like, again, how people perceive you. Like, I know someone who obviously has gained a lot of wealth. They came from poverty, they gained a lot of wealth, and it's like, it's an ego thing, in the case of which it's because of validation from others. They know that other people are going to look at them and be like, oh, you've gained that by yourself. And like, otherwise it doesn't mean anything to this person. And I can tell that by just how they act and how they look and how they say things, that this person doesn't see they've gained all this stuff and they should be proud of themselves. But they don't have confidence in that for some weird reason, because they're too busy thinking about what other people think about themselves.
Yeah.
I think it's just how you build yourself up.
Yeah, like, you wire yourself.
You either go step by step and going, oh, I'm proud of this. Like, even the smallest of steps, I'm proud of myself, and that's confidence. But ego is like, oh, I need to do more because someone's not going to see me
Nothing's
this way.
going to like satisfy
exactly
that.
A lack. It's a black hole, because
to feed your
nothing
ego,
ever is going to fulfill you if you're looking at ego. And you see people who literally like destroy others out of jealousy and out of spite, just so that they look good, and like bring other people down. And it kind of really does get into a really narcissistic thing as well.
There's been one moment in my life where I've actually felt like, in conversation, that someone has really been triggered by me, but like, as I said, like, I'm not aware how I come across, because I'm just being me, and some people receive you in a way where you have no control. But in this instance, I was being perceived in such a attack mode way, where someone didn't agree with what I said, which I wasn't even saying it to them. It was actually about star signs, and I could just feel how much they were exerting their view onto me. And it's like, what I'm saying, you don't have to agree with me.
Yeah, it's like, no, you're wrong, you must believe me. It's really weird.
Yeah, it's just like, it's just shocking to me that people go about life like that. If someone disagrees with what they're saying,
they have to persuade you to understand them.
Yeah, like, what the heck? Like, how is that real? Like, no. Like, that's when you like have to really shift away from even caring, because you can't control that. And some people that comes from unresolved trauma. When you see people who have these deep ego issues, and you understand where it stems from, and like I mentioned, that book, it usually does stem from childhood and how they've established themselves in the world, and they haven't like outgrown that. They haven't evolved from it. They're still in this mindset from childhood. You kind of know where it stems from, and that makes it's more graceful to move away from it and understand it, because you can't let that disturb you, because it's their own root of their own trauma. It's got nothing to do with you.
Absolutely. And you can't change it, and the ego does not want to be changed. And again, I'm going to keep relating back to this book, because it speaks so much about the ego and everything. And I again really recommend Eckhart Tolle's like books to people who want to know a bit more about the ego. But he literally describes it as this like virus, this parasite. It will grab onto everything before that thing disappears from you completely, like, or at least minimizes and is in your control. Because obviously it's very hard to control the ego. You have to go through what we call in tarot like an ego death. That you have to really break down the barriers that is clinging onto. I love that phrase, by the way. Ego death.
Ego death.
It's such a tower moment, but it honestly is such a like spiritual awakening in some like in its own form. How would you define
an ego death?
So there's so many different ways that you could describe this, but this is like something that you truly, truly believe to be part of yourself gets lost or like is removed from you,
and you
in a
have
really
no
bad,
choice to just
accept
surrender,
it. Absolutely.
to just completely. I love it. I love
it's good.
this.
You either go one way or another. You either go and have a complete ego death and go, actually, okay, like I understand so much now, and you gain more confidence through that ending, or and you'll see this happen a lot in people, the ego will do everything in its power to grab onto the next thing, and the ego will not completely die unless you kill it off. When in those instances, like, and you see people who get worse through these ego deaths, through these lessons of life where they get things removed, they throw a massive tantrum and life is against them, and this is unfair, and why does this person get this and I don't, and it's victimization, and it's now they're having to bring other people down so that they can feel better about themselves.
That's literally
the ego
all
goes
how
malicious.
It builds up.
Absolutely. And this is what makes narcissists, this is what makes people, they're so into themselves that they lack empathy for others, because it's to a point now, because it gets to that level, like extreme, of where they have to put everyone else down to feel something, like it's satisfaction. It's but it's like a weird drug. It's like a high, like how I'm feeling it now. It's like it grabs onto everything. It's quite it's really described quite like as that parasite, that virus. I think I'm embodying that, like
it's like, you should see Zeta's hand movements right now, like she's like, oh, literally I'm low-key scared here, like please don't grab me.
It's literally about like, but it will grab onto everything, and it will hide in the shadows. And it doesn't always disappear, and it's a work in progress. And if you feel as though you have ego, and again, everyone is born with that, we go through a stage, as Mariam said.
And you know, like your ego death, it's almost like it's purpose to level you up to your next stage. So we need ego in that way to help us, you know, go through different phases. And like you defined it perfectly, like your ego death is when you just have to completely surrender, because what you thought you knew is just completely false. Who you were, what you knew, you know, your view on something, it was completely like distorted, and now you're faced with like an opportunity. And which card is that in tarot, where it's like a new hand, something presenting it, and the person's looking
like
away?
an ace of like swords, ace of pentacles,
it's like wands. It's like presenting an opportunity to move away from that, and it's completely up to you. And some people just, you know, they're not always ready to like embrace that new way of being, because and I say I love ego deaths because
they are not pretty at the time,
you know. But looking back, looking back on my ego deaths, where, you know, I've believed something to be true and it's just proved me completely wrong. It's like, wow, like moving on now. Okay, I'm gonna take that and try to, you know, transform and improve, because that's what we're here for, and we're here to, you know, move through life with grace and not be stagnant in, you know, things that don't serve us. And your ego, it can serve you in, you know, in some aspects, but I think it's all about moving with trust and having confidence, and, you know, having control in areas that serve you, but not on like a level where it's toxic, or it means controlling people, controlling perceptions of you. Just be yourself, love yourself, and, you know, things will align for you, and you won't have to exert yourself overly.
Absolutely. Because you feel no need to, because it's like your life. So one question that we have is like, how do you become confident? You know, what does that look like? And like similar to the point that you just made, like one thing I would solely suggest if you want to be confident is really just trusting your own vision of yourself and like living life for you, like I always say, because again, that's the difference between confidence and ego. And to become more confident, I always see it as a skill. It's something that you can build. You're not just like, some people are born confident. I love that. But some people have to work really hard to get it. Like really, I had to work hard to get it.
I saw this post. It was very sweet. It said, we are all born into this world as confident babies, right? Because we cry and we laugh, we make noise, we do whatever, and we're not caring about anything because we're just babies, right? But over time, that is shattered, that confidence and that that way of, you know, being a baby, because you're exposed to more and more. So the way I see it is, and confidence is something that you can build on every day. It's not something that, you know, every day is different for everyone anyway. Confidence isn't something that you just have and that's it. It's something that is like you said, like a life skill. But I believe that the more trauma you go through, the more conditioning, and the more you the more you're shut down, the more you look to your surroundings for validation, the less in touch you are with yourself. And part of like gaining confidence for me has been on my own personal, you know, journey. Gaining confidence has been about connecting to my inner child and like serving my inner child in a way where I feel validated just as I am, and like my confidence just comes from me being alive, and it's like a birthright. I think you said that, right?
Yeah.
Like it's a birthright to be confident, because confidence just means feeling empowered,
and that you love yourself, and that you're proud of yourself,
loving yourself. Yeah, like why don't you deserve that?
Yeah, you do deserve that. Like, you should feel empowered of who you are as a person now, and what you have achieved in this life, and what you have been through, and what you've gained as strengths, and what you've learned through life. Like, you should be proud of yourself, and do not ever let anyone tell you that you're being too arrogant, that you need to calm it down. Like, be you.
Yeah.
And whatever that is, in whatever shape or form, be you. You're like, and that's what you should feel confident in, not how others perceive you.
Yeah. And I don't know if it's the Aries in me, but just giving thought to the idea that my confidence is diminished based on what I've been through and how people have received me, or me being shut down as an Aries, you know, because Aries don't, in their nature, they don't care about what people think, and they're very like impulsive and just do whatever. It makes me feel like, hang on, like I'm not actually serving myself as a human being to give that power away to others and diffuse my own like projection of myself, of my true self. Because confidence is something that is natural to us when we do arrive on, you know, this earth, when we're born. So why is it, it's like a test to see like how much you will give it away, you know, to your surroundings. And you know, some people just completely, like, I feel like, get shut off from their confidence and from being themselves because of their surroundings. And that can be family, friends, you know, school is like somewhere where, like, you know, you're trying to find yourself, even like as a child, like just your whole surroundings, like it's like layers, it builds up. And, you know, it's like part of life is just connecting back to that and recognizing that's your birthright. And unraveling that in the process.
So would you say also another thing to gain confidence, or like a good way of practicing confidence, is like just trusting
and not holding any bondage to like an outcome,
or what confidence looks like sometimes, you know what I mean? Like, it's just a feeling, it's like something is within you.
It's like giving up your need to always like win in a way, or to always look a certain way, or be received a certain way. Like giving that up, because when you want to control something, it's like you're building resistance. Do you know what I mean? Because if you're not trusting that it will just be like that, you're like you're overthinking, and overthinking for me always creates resistance. So like giving up, you know, your need to win, which is basically like giving up control, and just connecting to a higher purpose. Like what is your actual purpose? What are you trying to actually achieve? Because when you know what you're doing is going to serve like a greater good, you already just feel guided. You don't feel the need to like, does that make sense? For me, it's all about being humble, and like I said, embracing actually having trust and connecting to your confidence is basically being in touch with yourself.
Yeah, I would say humble is a bit subjective though. Like, I really feel like if you want to like, but in personal, like my personal opinion, if you want to be proud of yourself and be dramatic, like feel free to be dramatic every now and again. Like that's fine.
Humble and to correct you, actually, not correct you, but maybe I didn't say what I meant right.
No, you didn't.
Okay, I apologize.
That's why I said it's subjective. Anyways, yeah.
Like humble as in your ego, like don't, like a way to, you know, like transition into, you know, being more healthy and that balance between your ego and confidence is to just make sure that you're humbling yourself in the way of being confident and serving yourself and loving yourself.
Yeah, and I would say
not feeling the need to exert it to other people like that.
Yeah,
you know?
Or like in a way, I think it's the intention behind it that means the most to me. It's like, as long as you aren't purposefully trying to put other people's down to feel better, then that's when I would say, yeah, like humble yourself. Like don't feel like you're better than anyone else, because everyone's on the same level. Like you can be proud of yourself and again be dramatic about it, like as heck, like feel free, like scream
everything
in the street
do from a place of love.
But like as long as you're not doing it so that you're putting someone else down, like because in a way to feel confident, then obviously then that is ego.
Yes.
So absolutely.
Amen. So thank you for listening.
Yes, thank you for listening, guys. We appreciate it, and we'd love to hear your thoughts on what this episode was all about and your opinion and how you view ego. We'd love to know about that.
Yes, share your opinions.
Yes, but as far as it goes, we'll see you guys in the next podcast.
Thank you for
bye, guys.
Love you all.